Welcome to the WNBF UK Podcast.
Hello and welcome back to Season 3 of the WNBF UK Podcast with me, Sarah Glanville, as your host. We are back for episode 5 today, and we are with a bodybuilder who competed for the first time in 2023 and went on to win our First Timers Junior Bodybuilding title, Ben Brown. Thank you so much for joining us today. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
You're really welcome. I'm excited to get to know you a little bit better, Ben. I think a good place to get us started would be for you to talk us through how you found bodybuilding in the first place, especially kind of as a junior bodybuilder competing for the first time, pretty young. What was the journey for you to find bodybuilding as a sport?
I've always found it to be, or just fitness in general, as something where I can just put as much effort as I can in, and whatever effort I put in, I get it out. So I found that like really rewarding, not necessarily bodybuilding initially, just training in general. I love the aspect of, you know, I turn up on my own time. I put as much effort as I need to. And so I really like that kind of freedom and the kind of mental clarity that it gave me. So I trained like casually for 3-4 years. And I found that, hey, I'm pretty good at this. I'm getting pretty good results, like strength and size wise. So I stumbled across the WNBF and I was like, oh, there's a first timers going. Oh, it's 4 months out. That's something that really interested me. So I just thought of it as another way to just focus training. Initially, I just saw it as a just an opportunity to focus training. I'd like to say I thought I'd win the competition throughout, but there was some doubts, like spending so much time looking at other competitors. But yeah, I just treated it as like an event to put effort into, and but it turned into something a lot greater. But yeah, I found it just to be a sport or an event that just really gelled with me and my personality. I don't have to rely on a team or necessarily a coach to tell me and give me directions. So I found just like the journey of discovery as well was fantastic in terms of, oh, does this exercise well? How much volume can I tolerate? So I found that aspect of bodybuilding just fantastic.
Yeah, really interesting. I love that you found the WNBF UK and then you decided that was kind of how you were going to start your journey into competing. Did you have like a sporting background at school, or was it just purely the gym?
I had absolutely no sporting background whatsoever. I get contacted by people in my secondary school where I went to, and they're like, I could not have imagined you as a bodybuilder, it's quite funny in retrospect. I was the kid who would just be sat in goal on football or trailing behind in the mile run. So I don't think anyone would have expected me to accomplish something in a sporting field whatsoever.
Yeah. Do you know what? I would probably say people would say the same thing about me, but I think it's great that you've found something that you've really gelled with, because I think that's the key thing, isn't it? Finding a way to be fit and healthy that actually really resonates with you. It makes you want to do it. It makes you enjoy it. So you found the gym and then you started training in the gym. Did you just come across natural bodybuilding on social media, or how did you first realize that natural bodybuilding was a sport?
Well, everyone grows up with like the kind of, you know, unnatural side, I guess, with Arnold and like the Olympia and stuff like that. And obviously when you're younger, you don't understand the difference between natural and whatever. So I always just thought bodybuilding was just for that side. I thought it was exclusively like people who want to go down the enhanced path, and it was just yes or no, black and white. But then it was just these kind of it was the WNBF was like my first kind of introduction as to like, oh, you're drug tested, you're you're getting the polygraph test and stuff like that. So that's when it kind of became real in my mind that this is something I could participate in, because obviously I'd look up to like Arnold and like Chris Bumstead and Dorian Yates in the kind of like, in the same way I would look up to like fictional characters, in that it's cool to admire them, but I'll never be to that level. But then, yeah, it was a case of the WNBF would give me an opportunity to essentially be what they are, just on a different scale. And I thought that was like, yeah, that was something that'd be absolutely amazing to do.
Yeah, I think it's so normal, like exactly what you said, that just with the attention that the enhanced side of the sport does get,
Mm,
just through like literally like the media and stuff as well. It's so
yeah,
well publicized that that's how a lot of us first see bodybuilding, and as you say, don't even realize that the natural side of the sport is there. But I love that you found natural sport and it's encouraged you to compete, knowing that you wanted to do bodybuilding, but without going near anything performance enhancement
yeah,
performance enhancing drugs, sorry. So yeah, I think that that's really, really positive that you've managed to find an avenue to compete, and then the level of the competition within WNBF on a global scale, like at worlds and stuff, you look at these people and you think they're superheroes, like they look
yeah,
phenomenal. So it's there's still so much to be gained and so much to look forward to and role models to follow within the sport.
yeah.
But they're doing it the right way, or the way that you want to do it.
Absolutely. I once I'd competed in the WNBF UK, I started looking at all the different countries and places where they do it, and then obviously the world, which is where I'm aspiring to go. Hopefully this year, that would be nice. Fingers crossed. But that would be like, yeah, something like if I could make my mark as a natural bodybuilder, like I put so much effort in to be like known as a natural bodybuilder, or to be known as great within the sport, would be so rewarding. And I think like the WNBF has like the biggest I guess prestige about it when it comes to natural bodybuilding. So if I'm the best in this federation, then I would class myself as the best in any natural federation. So I think my main goal now, besides work and uni and everything along those lines, my main focus and my driving focus is to win the worlds one day. So
I love it. That's an amazing ambition to have. And I think, the start that you've had, the potential that you've shown that you have, and you're pairing that with the work ethic that you have in your training and your nutrition. I think that the only way you can go is forward and up. And those are the sort of goals that you should be aspiring to.
absolutely. Thank you.
You're welcome. So you competed in our 2023 First Timers Championship. How did you find your first experience of prep? Because obviously as a first timer, that's the first time you prepped as well. So what was that like?
So I went through prep self-coached. I didn't hire a coach. My main reason for this was I didn't want anything to fall back on. I didn't want that kind of I guess safety net. I wanted to think, if I smashed this and I did amazing, it was because of my effort and because of me. And I didn't want the reality where if I didn't do well, I had anyone to blame but myself. So it was that kind of self-responsibility to be like honed in on my nutrition, honed in on everything. So that was kind of the main reason for not getting a coach. And I think how that affected my prep was it forced me to learn everything that I could. I spent every morning listening to natural bodybuilders, like their advice. I study at uni a sports and exercise science degree, so I'm used to reading research papers, and I'm telling you, I would spend upwards of 4 or 5 hours a day just reading research papers on the best nutrient timing, the best exercise selection, rotate, everything like that. So I became so obsessed with everything, and I think that's what prep was for me. It was obsession. Getting the meals in at this time, getting training done at this time, everything else had to be pushed to the side. It was intense, to say the least, and there was definitely ups and downs. I think to anyone who's planning on doing a prep for the first time, I would recommend a coach. I think having kind of someone who's been through it would be beneficial. And I also say to anyone who's planning on doing one is to be prepared mentally. It's that bodybuilding is 100% mental, like 100%. So you need to be willing to go into the gym when you're tired, when you're hungry, you've got a headache, you're not getting PRs anymore, you're weaker. You need to be prepared to be disciplined in that kind of sense. And I think that's what prep taught me. I did a very short prep in retrospect. I just did a 12-week cut where I lost 15 kilos. So yeah, I made a few like errors in my timing and everything, but I still managed to do pretty well. I think it's definitely taught me a lot about discipline, and just it makes everything afterwards so much easier. Like a uni assignment or anything like that is not ever going to be as hard as prep was. Like nothing's ever going to be as mentally stressful as that. So I'm incredibly grateful that I managed to get through it, and I'm incredibly grateful that I had the support network that I had, which is something I recommend. Again, anyone who's doing it first time, you need to have like family or friends who understand what you're going through. I remember some of my co-workers were very concerned because I had the sunken face. I didn't have any fat in my hands or my feet, so I'd be hurt. It hurt walking around sometimes, and they were very concerned, like, why are you doing this? But they knew that it meant a lot to me. So you need to find people like that who are willing to, I guess, put up with you for a bit.
You've said so many good points there. Like I'm trying to decide where I want to start. Kind of.
Okay.
Let's start with the last thing you said about a support network. I think that's such an important thing, regardless of whether you're doing this self-coached or whether you have a coach. The people around you in the house, your co-workers, your friends, you need to get people to come on the journey with you.
Yes,
you need to understand what it is that you're doing and why it's important to you. Because like you say, there's going to be days where it's tough and you're maybe tired and you're hungry and you're not your best self. There's going to be days where they're concerned because you don't look your best self either.
Yeah.
So it's so important to have people who are supportive around you. I think that's a really, really great point that you've made there. How did you go about getting those people on side? Did you sit them down beforehand, or was it through the process?
Before the prep, I definitely did kind of sit my parents down and my brother down and be like, I'm going to go through a few changes now. I'm not going to be able to, eat meals with you or experience some of the same things, because you don't realize how much food means to you. It's not just even the food itself. It's you spend time with your family eating at dinner time and lunchtime, whatever. So I needed to get it through that this is not anything like personal or anything like that. It's just I've got a job to do and I'll be eating at these times. And they were so incredibly understanding. Like everyone says it and it's really cliche, but I couldn't do it without them and their support. Bodybuilding is not a solo sport. You've got a team of, if you're in a relationship or friendships or family, it's all of their efforts as well. Like even just my parents putting up with me, just that's more than I could have asked for. And then with friends and co-workers, they understood how much it means to me. Like I'm in the gym, 6-7 days a week. I work at a gym. I live and breathe the gym, and they know me as that. They know me as someone who loves training. So to them, it was just like, yeah, it makes sense. Why haven't you competed before? Like, this is what you're meant to be. So they saw me going through those changes of losing weight and being, less expressive and less myself, because I like to think I'm approachable, but maybe during prep, I was a bit like, less so.
I think we're all the same.
Yeah. So they were all really understanding. Like, obviously, there's a spectrum of people like incredibly concerned and telling me, do this healthily. And then some people like, yeah, come on, you've got this, only a few weeks to go. So there's ranges, but equally helpful. And they're all there for my best interest. They don't understand that, like, yeah, I'm losing weight pretty quickly, but it's for a reason. So, but yeah, they were all really understanding. They know that this is who I'm want to be. This is the person I want to be. This is my best self. Like me training, me being a bodybuilder is me. So they were really supportive, and I would recommend anyone to do it, just to have those conversations. It might be uncomfortable to say, it might be uncomfortable to say to your mum and dad, oh, I'm not going to be able to eat and drink at this time and whatever, but just having their support and just guidance is worth every like uncomfortable conversation you can have.
100%. You also talked about the stuff you learned about yourself and the mental resilience that you built, and now you being able to look back and almost compare difficult challenges to the prep, and it puts things in perspective for you. I think it's something that you're really lucky to walk away from prep with, and I think a lot of people do. I think maybe some people miss it, but what's the biggest lesson been for you on that front? Do you want to elaborate on what you said there?
I guess something like don't take things for granted. Don't take something as simple as food for granted. Like, I was so lucky that after my prep, I was able to be in a position where I do have food available. But there's people who don't, and there's people who live prep every day, and I can't imagine how that feels. And it's made me so much more cognizant of how lucky I am just to have food on the table. That's my biggest takeaway of food isn't guaranteed. This is a pleasure. This is a privilege to have. And an extent of that is just eating with my family. It's something that is not for granted. So enjoy it. And so I've enjoyed my off season where I'm able to, have meals with my family. And it's something you grow up on. So you're not, I guess, you don't understand how much of a privilege it is until you can't. So, and then the kind of very extreme side of that is like the very tail end of prep, where you're reducing the amount of water you can drink, and you're trying to get that very tight little bit, and you're really pushing it. And I think my first sip of water after prep was something else. So it's simple things like don't taking water for granted. It's mad to say that, how I've grown up, but I don't take water for granted anymore. I don't take food for granted anymore. I don't take being with my family and eating with them for granted anymore. And I think that's the most important lesson that I learned through this whole journey.
Yeah, it's really important. And I think as well, you've clearly got this perspective as well now where you're I chose to put myself in that situation. This is a choice. And there's other people who aren't so fortunate to have the choice. But, I think that in itself, having such a tough time going through a prep, which we all do because of the scenario that we put ourselves in, but also having that realization in the back of our mind that you're I've chose to do this, and I'm doing this to myself because it's teaching me discipline, it's teaching me resilience, it's teaching me all these things, and it's putting things into perspective. I think that's also such a important lesson. Let's dial back a little bit, because we were initially talking about, the first thing you mentioned, was about the fact that you'd self-coached, and you clearly have a sports and exercise background, and that's what you're doing in your degree. Have you always looked after your own training and nutrition at the gym? Was there ever a point where you had someone helping you with that?
I've always been kind of very by myself at this point. You've had a few training partners come and go, and a few mentors, just give me squat techniques and stuff like that, but never had a PT or a coach or a nutritionist. I feel as if it might be a bit weird to say, but I really like making those mistakes myself and finding the journey. I think if I knew everything there is to know about fitness, that's it. The journey's done. The book's finished. I like finding out stuff like, this exercise doesn't work, this is better. Oh, the resistance profile of this is better. I like the kind of mental aspect as well. Just the theory of training is fantastic. As I said, just reading research papers, it's it's weird to say that I enjoy it, but I do.
I don't think it's strange. I think it's you've got a blend of a really old school approach to understanding how your body works and what works for your body, blended with the science that you now have access to in the research papers that you're able to access, and obviously you're through your own education and stuff. This is a skill that you've learned to hone as to how to read research papers and how to understand that information. But I think I think there's so much to be said for that, going through that journey, just like you said, where you're learning. And how did you find taking that from applying that to just going to the gym and loving training? Did it change much when you decided, I'm going to be a natural bodybuilder and I'm going to step on stage?
It did, in the sense that I put a lot more pressure on myself, especially during prep. There was so much, I guess mental gymnastics in my head of like, these people won't respect me if I don't win, or I've put so much pressure on my family and friends for me not to walk away with a victory, or for me not to present myself in a certain way would be something on them. And that's something that in day-to-day training I don't have to deal with. If I have a bad session, that's it, that's a bad session. But during prep, I can't have a bad session. I'm not allowed to have a bad session. So I think the difference was that kind of pressure that I put upon myself of having to perform at a high level. That was the main difference. Everything else kind of worked its way out in terms of, I'm a bit more tired now, I can't really do as much volume as I would used to, or I need to dial the intensity back and forward different days. I need a rest day more often. But that was the kind of pressure to perform was the biggest aspect of being on prep.
And you mentioned in your first answer that you'd said that you would advise other people who were competing for the first time to get a coach. Do you feel that the area that you feel you would have maybe benefited from is that handling that mental pressure? So although you know yourself really well, you know your training, you know how to manage the volume and how to program for specific body areas to develop specific muscle groups, and nutrition wise, obviously you've done really well on that front too, but you felt maybe the experience that someone would be able to give you on the mental preparation side would be beneficial.
Yeah, that would be something that is I would believe to be the most important. The kind of ability to come back and be like, wait, what are you saying? What you're saying doesn't make sense. You don't, like, these people aren't going to fall out with you if you come second place. This is that kind of someone who's been through the journey before and having that kind of like therapeutic ability to be, be outside of your body. Everything I was feeling was about me. So I'd look in the mirror and the body dysmorphia was not, not brilliant during prep. I had clothes hanging off of me. I had, my hoodie wasn't as tight as it used to be. So I was thinking, have I lost weight too quickly? Am I not? Just having that kind of person to be like, no, you're on track. You're all good. Stop worrying. It's more of just that kind of, therapeutic side where they've been through the ringer. They know what you're going through. And not putting pressure off of yourself, but putting onto them to be like, I've done all the diet. I've done all of this, because people have a lot of stresses just in general without prep. So adding that entire, like, everything on top of it, it can't be great. But that's, you are correct in terms of, like, I think the mental side is what having someone with you would help.
Yeah. I think it's like when now you can look back and you see things a bit clearer, right? But it's like you said, the body dysmorphia is one part of it, where you're second guessing if your readiness all the time, and every single person does that, how ready they look. And that is one part of it. But I think what you said there as well is, someone to kind of help put things in perspective and talk you off a ledge a little bit sometimes, even when you don't realize that you need it. Do you feel, although you didn't have that first time round, you've went through the process, now you have a little bit more perspective, do you think that you would go into another prep better prepared to deal with the mental side of things if you were to do it on your own, or has that experience kind of led you to think, no, I will work with someone in the future through that?
I think it's reassured me more that I'm able to handle it by myself. I think, as I said, I love the idea of making the mistakes, and I've made 1,000,001 mistakes in the first prep of like doing this too quickly, not having enough rest days, the nutrition, that kind of side. So I think trial by fire is the kind of my first prep was everything that could have gone wrong went wrong, but it still went okay. So this time around, I'm giving myself twice as long. I've already bookmarked, like, here's where I want to be weight wise. So at the minute, I'm fine. There's no mental issues on prep. So if I can hit the weights that I want to leading up to that, I know that I've dealt with it now so that me later doesn't have to worry, because I know I'll be worrying. I know future me will be worrying about, oh, have I done this? Am I too? But I'm good. I'm chill. I'm kind of coaching myself for later on. So I feel prepared and I feel ready to take those responsibilities again. And like the kind of mental mind map you get into of, as I said, will these people not like me if I don't win? I know that's not true. But in the moment you're thinking, oh my God, I've pushed all these people away. No, you haven't. Oh my God, these people aren't going to respect me. They will. Oh my God, these people, relax. It's fine. You're okay. You've got through it. Again, making all the mistakes. This time around, I'm good. I feel much more prepared, and I feel as if I'd be able to coach other people now, knowing that I've, again, made all the mistakes to make.
Yeah, it's really good to hear that. And I think that, not that I'm going to say something, I promise I'm not being patronizing, but your age as well, like you're still maturing, and that's like that experience has given you more perspective and more maturity as a result. And I think that we all have different ways of motivating ourselves to get through the prep, right? So for you, you didn't want to say I'm going to win, but you really, really wanted to. And that was the driver. Like that was one of the drivers that were pushing you through. So when you think about when it gets tough, the internal dialogue's going to be, oh, what's going to happen if I don't win? Because that's kind of almost what you're using to push yourself through the really hard days. And I think it's nice and it's refreshing to hear that you're coming into the second prep with just a little bit more experience and a little bit more perspective. And I don't know whether the dialogue that you'll use to motivate yourself will change as a result. Maybe it won't, but you're able to put things in a bit more perspective, and you've got such a great support network that I'd hope that you've got people around you that, you know, if you need talking off a ledge, you know who to go to, you know who to have those conversations with.
Yeah, about the like internal dialogue, I think last time around I wanted to win, and like so desperately that it was clouding that I can't win if I don't train and I don't like get there. So it was, the winning was overshadowing what would cause me to win. But this time around, and I think the last week of the last prep, I became a lot more zen about everything. It was a case of, well, I can't do anything now that's going to make me win. So if the judges don't like how I look, that's kind of how it has to be. But I'm just going to present myself the best I can. And I think that kind of last week of prep is what I'm going to go into this entire prep with, in that I'm just going to be the best that I can be. Like there's no other option. So I'm just trying to beat last year's version of myself. That's who I'm aiming to beat.
I love it. I think that's a fantastic way to look at prep, and to look at more than that, like to look at your life. Like it's crazy, but I think that when you do care about bodybuilding and you get so much from the experience, you do start to think about how can I apply these lessons to everything. And that's how I like to go into like my off-season days as well, and like even like my work day is like, how can I be the best version of myself today? Like what can I do to do what I need to do? Everything's a tick box exercise. Every goal is broken down into steps, and I think it's just something that you get from experience and the rewards of doing the steps and then achieving the goal. So do you want to talk us through what that first day that first show day experience was like for you, that for the WNBF UK First Timers Championships. What was that day like from your perspective?
Oh, it's stressful. Stressful. So I had, you know, the obviously I wake up on the day incredibly tired because I'd spent all of last night stressing, incredibly dehydrated and hungry. So I'm already going into it in a kind of like, oh no, here we go, it's time. And I think stressful is the best way for it. I was stressing, I need to get here on exactly this time, 10 minutes out this, and then you're looking around and seeing everyone else. You're like, oh my God, what have I done? What have I got into? Everyone's so big. I'm tired. It all adds up. But like, as you get through it, you're behind the stage, the category before you's going on, you're thinking, this is it. Like, that me stressing won't help. So you're kind of really zen about everything, and everyone there is so lovely. Like, you don't realize, like, everyone's been through the same stuff you have. Everyone's tired, hungry, just wants a pizza. Like, everyone's going through it. So everyone was so helpful as well. Like, he had people handing out like rice cakes and like all of this stuff, like pre-workouts. They're giving people equipment to pump up with. Like, everyone was super supportive. Even like coaches from other teams were just like, hey mate, you're right. They were checking in with me. So it's a very caring atmosphere, which I'm not going to say you wouldn't expect, but you can imagine like people so exhausted would be that willing to help. But I think it's that kind of brotherhood, I guess, of everyone's been through it, so everyone's going to help each other. Like, yeah, it was fantastic. And then obviously they call out your category, and then you're behind stage and you're lined up with everyone in your category, and you're like, that guy's gonna win, that guy's gonna win, that one's bigger, that one's leaner, he's got better legs, and you're just comparing everything that you can. And then the moment that I step on stage, like, all the worries go. Like, it's incredible how nervous I was beforehand, and as soon as I step on stage, I'm not nervous anymore. And it helped that the lights were so bright, I could only see like 10 people. But I just saw the row of judges, and then I saw my dad in the corner, and then I was just like, well, I've got to win now because he's here. And then they start rotating people around. They get the first call out, the second call out, they do all of this, and then I start seeing that they start putting me in the middle, and that's like, okay, I'm doing all right, I'm good. And that momentum builds, and they send you away, and then they send you back, and you're in the middle again, and they're rotating people around you. And that's like the confidence that it gives you to be like, everything I've been doing is worth it. It was unreal. It was genuinely unreal. And then you go back behind stage, and you have your own individual routines. And I thought I'd be nervous for that, but I wasn't. Like, I wasn't present. It was weirdly enough to say, I just kind of walked on stage, and I walked back, and I'm like, what's just happened? But that was all. It was all unconsciously done. And then finally they get to the awards, and they're calling out 5th place and 4th place and 3rd place, and then 2nd place, and you're not there. You've not done anything. So I'm either like, I've won, or I've not even placed top 5. And then they called my name out, and all I could hear was my dad in the corner, and that meant the world to me. Like, being on stage, I was shaking everyone's hand. I was just saying thank you, and it was definitely the best moment of my life for sure, because it's just it's the culmination of everything I'd worked towards. Like, it wasn't handed to me. There's so many things in life that you didn't have an influence in, but this was entirely me. This was just, you put this amount of effort in, and this is what you got out of it. So that moment means a lot to me, like, so much.
You can tell you talk about it so passionately, and I think that's been like one of my favorite retellings of a show day experience I've listened to, because you just sound so yeah, I think that it was obviously clearly a really meaningful day for you, and I'm glad that you managed to have that. There's something so special about the WNBF UK first timers. Like you talked about the atmosphere backstage. I've been at a number of different shows with different federations, and nothing against anyone else, but just shouting about the good stuff that WNBF UK do. There's just something magic about that first timers show. Like you've said, every single person backstage is in the same boat. They're all literally the first time they've ever been to do a show, or very, very close to their very first time if they're a novice, like they're still in their first season, or they're quite an inexperienced competitor. And everyone just is there for each other. Everyone's wanting to win, everyone's competitive, everyone's worked really hard, but like you say, handing out rice cakes and a little bit of word of advice, or a word of you're checking in, like, are you all right? How you doing?
Yeah.
I think it's something magical about it. Do you feel like, you mentioned, you know, you train on your own? I'm the exact same. I've never had a training partner. I've always trained on my own. And like you said, you know, you get almost quite in your own little zone. You do your own little thing. Have you found that you've made connections maybe through the show, that there's people now you keep in touch with, and that have you dropped a session with people, or
Yeah. So before I competed, I was looking up on Instagram, which I don't recommend people do. I looked up all of my competitors. I looked back at all their history of how lean they are, all the weights, and I don't advise that whatsoever, because it just puts you in a mental spot. All you're looking at is their positives and reflecting. So I was looking at all of the competitors. I'm glad I reached out to all of them. Like, I think the 2 or 3 weeks beforehand, I messaged everyone I could find, just like, hey mate, just so you know, I'm doing the first timers event as well. Wishing you all the best of luck. Hope prep's going well. Can't wait to see you on stage. Stuff along those lines. And yeah, there's a few people who I still talk to this day. Like one of the guys, Mikey, who was in my show, he placed in the top 5 as well. I message him like every other day, just like asking him how prep's going and have you got a coach. And it's great, because I love this community so much, and I'm really happy I reached out to everyone like beforehand, because I as I said, I just love the community. So just being like, hey, just so you know, I'm in your category, can't wait to see you on show day, wishing you all the best of luck, because I just found that to be really fun. It's such a niche thing. It's such a niche thing that everyone who's doing it has the same problems. Like I've had someone who did the Supernaturals in 2023 reach out to me a while ago, just being like, hey, have you found this after your show? And I went, yes, I did. I was eating, blah, blah, blah. And it was crazy to have someone who's had the exact same problems in such a niche sport. So I recommend communicating with people, but I don't recommend the looking up your opponents. That's something I'm still struggling to just put my phone down and walk away, but I get engrossed by it, but it just knocks your confidence, and I wouldn't recommend it. But I do recommend, you know, making those connections and making a few friends.
I completely agree with both of those things. Completely. Do you think that this was actually something I was thinking about when you were talking about before, with the mental side of things, making connections in the sport and building your community? These are the people that know. Like, see, when you're having a tough day, I've got a lot of people now that are much more experienced competitors than me, that have been doing this for 10 years or 20 years, some of them, that I know I can drop a WhatsApp message to and say, oh my God, I'm having a wobble. And they know exactly how I'm feeling and what to say to help me get my head screwed back on. So definitely you're doing the right thing, reaching out and connecting and making a community of people around you. And it's what I love about WNBF UK. Everyone is just lovely. I've not met one bad egg yet.
Yeah, neither.
I also loved how you said about you stepped on stage, and the minute you stepped on stage, you knew that you were where you were supposed to be, and that like all the kind of nerves almost disappeared. I remember how big your smile was. Like, I remember that from the day. You just looked so at home on the stage. Had you been practicing your posing and stuff like that? You obviously looked like you had your posing routine down to some conscious level, but had you been drilling that throughout the prep?
Yeah, like near the tail end, it was hours a day. Like, that's why when I said it was so unconscious, I had a routine, I had it lined up with the music that it just happened, and I wasn't conscious of it. And yeah, the posing was something that I struggled with initially, obviously being self-coached, but I had a few like people who have competed previously just give me pointers of, yeah, just lean forward, do this, imagine your judges are down there. So I found that aspect kind of one of the hardest things to do by myself, but that's something I would definitely recommend getting a coach for, or getting some pointers. And then when you say about my smile, it was that kind of like, this is where I belong, this is who I am. Like, I think, like, for the first time in my life, I'm like, this is something I love and I'm pretty good at. And it's so rare to find that, where you're so passionate about something and you're pretty good at it.
Yeah.
So I'm so grateful for the WNBF that I was able to find that, and I'm so grateful that I found it at the age that I did. Like, I was 20 when I competed. I'm 21 now, and I plan on, competing up until when as long as I can, up until the Open and the Masters. I love it. Just this is who I am. That's where I belong on stage. So I did plan on taking a bit of a longer off season before I competed, but the kind of itch is just like, I need something to be focused on, and I need that kind of goal at the end of the year for the October 6th. So I need that kind of drive back, and I need that hunger, that desire to just be there, be on stage, big grin, big stupid grin. I can't wait. That's where I belong. That on stage is where I belong.
I love that. I love it. I think the point you've made there is so important, and actually it's so nice to hear you talking about the opportunity in the sport and the length of time that you can continue to just become a much better and better natural bodybuilder. Like, you at 20 stepped on stage for the first time. 20 years time, you would be just about to move into masters classes. Like, you're such a long bodybuilding career ahead of you, and the potential that you have to just continually getting better. It's so exciting. And like you say, that there's just this long journey of different options for you to compete at different stages of your life, through juniors, through to Open, through to masters. And it's nice to hear you have that ambition already to see your future in natural sport.
Yeah, it's something you are right with. Like, there is so many opportunities. Like, I know I'm going to get better than this, which is so cool to think about. Like, you obviously see people in the gym who are much older than me, and I'm thinking, wow, I'm only scratching the surface. I've got plenty of time to make those small little improvements. And yeah, the thought of, the tail end of being in juniors and then being in the Open, so cool. It's so just, sick. I'm going to be big. I'm going to be at that age. Yeah.
No, and I think it's the realization as well that you will just like, people talk about this genetic ceiling, and I'm almost at the point where I'm like, don't really think that
it doesn't exist.
It exists. Like, so I'm 28, so I'm quite a little bit older than you, and I have made the most progress. Like, I've been training for 10 years. I've made the most progress that I've ever made in the last year and a half, because it's the most dialed in I've been in an off season with my training and my nutrition, really focused, understanding what it is I need to work on, and just doing the work that I need to do. And I've made more progress in the last 18 months than I have in the previous, 7 years or 8 years. And I'm the oldest I've ever been, I think to think about the journey that yourself and other people at your age can have in the sport, it's just so exciting. Like, I think we're just going to see some beasts, and to be honest, like,
it's fantastic. And like, the way you're saying it is, with you being so much more dialed in and prepped in, I think that's how I want to be. Like, the best bit about being a natural bodybuilder is whatever physique you have is the best your physique is. Like with the enhanced side, there are like, you know, cycling compounds and going in and out of looking good. And whereas with natural physiques, you are continuously just getting 1%, 1%, 1%. You are just getting better and better. So, you know, minus, you know, bloating up too much or cutting too quickly, you're going to be at your best at the given time, which is something like your progress is not guaranteed, but it's consistent, and it's something that's entirely up to you. So yeah, and you're right in terms of like my recent training has been just different, just so much better. Like the amount of reading I've done into like all these like effective rep models, different like hypertrophy rep ranges, and like stability of movements. I've been experimenting with different gyms, and I feel as if the progress I've made in the past 3-4 months have been better than like 2 years last year. It's like it's been fantastic to just have this like almost second wind of progress.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so excited to see you on stage this year. What was your feedback at the end of First Timers, and how has that affected the time you have taken in an off season before you're starting prep for Supers?
The physique or the critiques that I got was that I needed to improve my quads and my lats, and that's what I've been doing. I've been listening. I've been, you know, prioritizing those. I've been allocating more volume, tailoring my other volume to those muscle groups. So pulling back on like hamstrings, glutes, that kind of training, you know, reducing the amount of volume I do on push sessions so I can push it on pull sessions. I paid attention, and I was really glad like I got that feedback from some of the judges on like specific areas to improve, because
Yes.
yeah, as I said, being self-coached, I thought everything was bad. At certain points, I was thinking, oh, everything's wrong. But having just like, do this and you'll do better was so refreshing. And like when I got the scorecard back and the email saying like, oh, your posing fantastic, your size perfect for the division, your conditioning great in the division, it was like, okay, cool. Yeah, amazing.
I'm where I need to be.
Yeah, that's it.
Amazing. And how have you found adjusting your volume to focus on those areas? Have you felt you've seen like really good progress in your training numbers and stuff? Like, do you feel like it's working? Do you feel like you're in the right space?
Yeah, it's made a big difference. Like there's so many muscles that you're just juggling in the air. You're thinking, oh, I can't let this one slip. This one's pretty good, so I can put it. But just having like, yeah, just do these two. Just there we go, simple as. And it's been like I'm the biggest that I've ever been. I've got 22 weeks to be as conditioned as I've ever been. The training and the structure of my training is the best it's ever been. My nutrition, the best it's ever been. I'm just going to be the best version of me on that stage. October 6th is going to be the best my physique can look. So I'm just super excited.
I am buzzing to see it. I can't wait. So have you started prep, or are you just about to?
I started prep last week, so I'm proper into it now. I've got got meal preps going, got training schedules. So and it's as soon as that clocked over to the Monday and I was on prep, just everything felt better. Like my life just felt a lot more simple as just, I've got a clock going and it's just ticking down until I'm gonna have another fantastic day to look forward to. So yeah, I've started prep and I'm buzzing. I'm loving it.
You're giving yourself a lot more time this time round.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
Are you trying to lose a little bit more body fat? Is that also the plan, or is it just slower over the period of time?
Yeah, so I've given myself twice as long, and hopefully it's going to be half as hard. And my main point or my main goal with doing that is just to reduce the amount of muscle mass that I lost from last time. I believe that I could have came in either at the same weight, but more conditioned, or the heavier weight and equally as conditioned if I just like given myself more time. So I think my goal this time is to come in equally lean or slightly more, but at a heavier body weight of just like maybe even just 2.5 kilos of just maintaining the muscle a bit better and not just depleting my muscles over the course of 12 weeks.
Yeah, it's a good lesson to take, and I think taking the time is always you're always rather give yourself a little bit more time, and then if you're ready, you're comfortable, you can almost feed back into it rather than feeling like you're having to diet right up until the last gasp on peak week. So I think it sounds like an excellent plan. I'm really excited to see you on October 6th.
Oh, thank you. I can't wait.
Now, you have dropped so much advice for first timers through this whole episode. Is there anything that you feel like you've left unsaid that you want to wrap up before we sign off?
I'd say my biggest piece of advice is that you'll be okay. Like your life isn't going to fall apart no matter the outcome. Like, and you will start to feel like that. You will start to be doubting, a lot, but you will be okay. You'll get through it. You'll be smiling through it, and you'll be enjoying it. And allow yourself to be stressed. Allow yourself to be comfortable in uncomfortable situations. Like I wish I allowed myself to be absorbed in the day a bit more. I was just putting it off. Allow yourself to be stressed. Allow yourself to feel how you need to feel, but just remember you're going to be okay. It's going to be okay. You'll get through it.
Yep, absolutely. It's a bodybuilding show. That's all it is. It's a bodybuilding
exactly.
show. You're here because you want to do it and because you're having fun. No one's got a gun to your head.
That's it.
But I think it does it. You do get very sucked into it, don't you? And it's because you give everything to it. You really care. You care, and you want it to be meaningful, and you want it to be a success. But I think everyone who makes it to first timers is the first timer show day. That's a win in itself, because it's the first time everyone's ever done it, and it's a tough run. Prep for the first time is a tough run. All right, Ben, thank you so much. I think that was a fantastic episode. I'm really looking forward to hearing the feedback on this one. I think a lot of people are going to get so much from listening to that. Thank you to everyone for listening along at home as well. So we've talked a lot about our Supernaturals finals, which is the 6th of October. You can register for that now on the website, but we're also still taking registrations for our first timers and novice championships on the 16th of June. So please don't wait about and signing up for that as well. Big thank you to our headline sponsor, C&P. We couldn't do any of this without you guys. We're going to be back for episode 6 of the WNBF UK podcast in a few weeks. Until then, have a great few weeks, guys. This has been the WNBF UK podcast.
Check out CNP, our sponsors, and sign up for our events at WNBFUK.com.